Hello, my name is Rich Cassady. I'm the Deputy Fire Chief at the Glenside Fire District in Glendale Heights. I'm joined today with Ms. Heather Baker, and today we're going to talk to you about the benefits of learning CPR. And you know, whether you've had a CPR class before or your certification's expired, it's never too late to get out and learn CPR. And as we talk with Heather later, you're going to find out the benefits and the impact it can have on somebody's life. Heather, we all know that that CPR saves lives
Sure.
for people who are in cardiac arrest. You know, there's history there, there's sciences there, and most people will probably never have the opportunity, thankfully, to provide it or receive it or even witness it. But you could, and you want to be in a position where you're going to help a loved one, a friend, a coworker, or even someone you don't know, a stranger. And learning CPR is something that anyone can do. You don't have to be a medical professional to know how to do it. And you could really make a positive impact on somebody's life if you go out and learn it. You know, Heather, you have an incredible story to tell. So I'm going to stop babbling here, and I'm going to kind of turn it over to you. Can you tell us about yourself and the events that surrounded what happened to you in February of this year?
Sure. So my name is Heather Baker, formerly Heather Cole. When I grew up here in Glendale Heights, I grew up here in Glendale Heights. I went away to college at the University of Illinois, became a teacher, moved up to the Rockford area, became a school admin, and now I work in Pecatonica School District. At 28 years old this year, on February 1st, I went to work like any other day. I've got about a 40-minute commute. I drove there for a meeting. Everything felt fine. Drove another 40 minutes for another meeting that lasted a couple hours. Came back to Pecatonica, another 40-minute drive.
Yeah.
Walked in, sat my things down on the table. For a brief second, I felt dizzy, and I passed out.
Okay. Was anyone else in the room with you, or was it just you?
Luckily, we were gathering for a meeting, so the school superintendent was there, the school psychologist, and a couple other people were in the room.
So they actually saw you pass out?
They did.
Okay.
So I fell to the ground. I actually fell forward first, hit my head and my face pretty hard on the table, and then fell backwards. The superintendent ran right over, and he shook me to try to see if I was responding. And he said that I was not responding, and I took one big last breath, and then I stopped breathing.
Wow.
So at that time, he started hands-only CPR.
Okay.
As my administrator and as a female, he just felt more comfortable doing hands-only, and that's okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about hands-only CPR in just a little bit.
So with hands-only CPR, he was able to keep blood circulating through my body and oxygen as well until Mr. Tim King, he is our middle school principal and actually a part-time Byron firefighter.
Oh.
So I was very fortunate. He arrived for the meeting not knowing anything was going on.
So he just walked into the situation?
Yeah, they were kind of waving out the door like, hey, Tim, hurry up. And he was like, no, I got 5 minutes. The meeting hasn't started, you know, not knowing that I was on the ground. So when he got inside, he took command of the scene, used his expertise to continue CPR. Pecatonica Fire Department and Police Department had all responded to the scene, and together they used the AED to shock me 3 times before bringing my heart back into a somewhat normal rhythm, and then I was transferred out to a hospital in Rockford.
Okay, and how long was your recovery period after that?
Yeah, so I actually was in a coma for a full day and an evening. By the end of the first day, they told my family that, you know, I should have woken up by now. I wasn't waking up. They had attempted to wake me up, and they thought, well, she might live in this either coma forever, or she's going to have significant brain damage and won't be able to walk or talk or speak on her own. So my family went to stay at my home in the Rockford area for that evening, kind of pondering what life was going to be like from now on and what state I would be in. But at about 6 or 7 the next morning, the hospital called and said, she's awake.
Wow.
So I was able to get tubes taken out and take off the neck brace and all of these things. And I don't remember those first couple of days,
Sure.
but I was able to start walking and talking and responding to questions. My entire recovery was only about 2 weeks. But I still have some symptoms now, 6 months later, so I think it'll take some time.
Sure.
But the major recovery took only 2 weeks. I went back to work
Good
2
for
weeks
you.
later.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, Now, your school staff, were they all trained in CPR, or how does it work at your school district?
Yes, so although it's not a requirement, my superintendent really values CPR training. So every single year, all staff in the district are offered training.
Okay.
So we rotate the list of people who are up for recertification. So you don't have to take it every year if you don't want to, if you're already certified, or you can choose to take it every year, and especially new staff. So they had actually been CPR trained by the American Heart Association in Rockford Memorial Hospital 1 month prior to the event.
Wow, so it's all fresh in the head.
It was fresh in their minds.
It's like
yes,
let's go.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Now, have you been trained in CPR as well?
I have been.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. So 1 month and this happens, and I can only imagine, as a firefighter, I think I know what Tim,
yes.
what Tim was thinking. He walks in the building, he's like, I hope there's donuts here today.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, it's like, no, here you go.
Exactly.
And how are the coworkers doing? I mean, that's a very stressful and traumatic situation, not only to you, but to the people who have to do it as well. How have they been with you? Do they stay in constant contact with you? Is it different now, or do they say, hey, Heather, you got lunch today? You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
How are they with you now?
Well, this was my first year in this position. I had previously taught middle school band at a different school. So what a great way to know your coworkers, get to know them. Luckily, we already had a very close familial feel on our staff. Everyone got along really great. But when this happened, I can't imagine the trauma they went through. I often talk about how the hardest part for me happened when I was unconscious and I don't remember it. So I think it was probably more traumatic at that time for friends, family, and the people who saw it happen.
Absolutely.
They said that they really spent the rest of the day with each other, decompressing and just trying to, in a healthy way, work through that situation. They really gave me my space, but kept in touch with one of my coworkers. Kind of became the lead contact for me. And so she came to the hospital with me and just kept everyone in the loop. But there was a really strict policy that they didn't talk about it. So staff was concerned. They knew something had happened. Students had seen things happen, and they saw the ambulance and all that. But to protect me, they kept it very secretive. So until I came back to work and got to tell the story myself, really nobody knew what had happened.
Okay. So what was the last thing you remember before collapsing?
Yeah, you know what? It's weird. I remember the entire day. I remember everything I did that day up until the minute that I felt that dizziness.
Okay.
So I had eaten lunch. I went to the bathroom and was ready for this meeting. It was going to be a long one. And so I was preparing myself. And I just stood there in this wave of dizziness I can't even describe, just super nauseous, super dizzy. It only lasted about 2 seconds, and that's the last thing I remember.
Okay.
And then I remember waking up, being rolled into UW Hospital, which I transferred to a couple days after being in Rockford. And I remember seeing my brother-in-law, and he said, hi. He greeted me coming out of the elevator on the gurney, and I even had to ask my husband, I said, was that real or a dream? Because it's still a little hazy.
Wow. Wow. And well, since then, you've kind of taken a terrible situation and kind of put a positive spin on it, and you've kind of become an advocate for people to learn CPR. Can you talk a little bit about the things that the things that are you doing to help promote CPR and raise awareness for it and how important it is?
Sure. Well, one of the things that I've been doing is working with fire departments such as this one. And I'm really grateful to have this opportunity and this platform. I've been speaking a little bit at local businesses and schools, trying to encourage people to sign up for that training if it is optional at their workplace. I've been working a lot, volunteering with the American Heart Association and going to fundraising events. I have a Heart Walk team. The Heart Walk is coming up, and just really trying to, as you said, take something really bad and turn it into something positive.
Well, we certainly appreciate that here.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think the community is going to appreciate that. And hopefully, hearing your story, people are going to go, wow, you know what? I'm going to go learn CPR.
Sure.
That's kind of our goal here today. Let's talk a little bit about CPR itself and maybe some of the equipment that we use and things that were used on you to help revive you, because it's a great story. And the American Heart Association, they have they call it chain of survival. And kind of the first link or two is that bystander CPR, the person who can immediately start administering CPR and when someone goes down, like Heather did, and they say that it's documented that the sooner CPR can be started, the sooner an AED can be used. Really increases your chance of survival, as Heather's a testament to. So I'll show the AED here. This is a trainer module. You see these everywhere now. They're in parks, they're in places of assembly. We've got them here in the fire station, at schools, and health clubs. They're everywhere now. They're not quite to a price point where we can afford to have them in our homes, but certainly most businesses have them now. Schools have them, of course. And they really are fantastic devices. And what they do is they assist you in CPR and deliver a shock to help restart the heart. Some people get confused. They'll say, well, the shock will shock your heart and get it going. This thing actually stops your heart and hopes that it'll pick up, kind of like rebooting your computer.
Wow.
And get your heart going back again. And it's a really easy device. And some people can be intimidated by it. And I, as a formal educator, I tell my students, if you remember nothing else about it, remember to turn it on, because it's like your heart Garmin. It's going to teach you and tell you. You follow it. It's the boss. Okay. As soon as it gets there, bang, turn it on.
Apply pads to patient's bare chest. Plug in pads connector next to flashing light.
Okay. So it's really simple. There's I'm going to turn it off here. There's just really two components to it: the unit itself and some pads, which there'll be diagrams to show you where they stick on your heart, and this is what they did with Heather. And they said they shocked you 3 times.
They did, yeah. It's pretty incredible.
And what they're finding, the science behind it is they're finding is that, this machine coupled with CPR, that 1-2 punch, if you will, is what's really responsible for bringing most patients back. And that was certainly the case with you.
Sure, and something I didn't know or didn't realize is that once they had those pads hooked up and they administered the first shock, they were then advised to keep doing CPR. So you would continue compressions in between the shocks, correct?
Right. You pick it up right away.
So, they tried, they shocked me, and they did the CPR, and things started to come back, and then they went south again. And so 3 times you got that shock, but it walked them through and told them what to do the whole way.
Right. It'll tell you, begin CPR, stop CPR. You just listen to this thing, and it'll tell you exactly what to do until further help gets there. So it's not people look at it. Oh, I don't know how to use that. It's a very intimidating device. Just turn it on. Turn it on and listen to it and follow the instructions, and it could really help. Let's talk a little bit about maybe your experience and my experience is what kind of mental obstacles, if you will, would you talk to people that say, what? I'm just not confident, or I don't think I should do CPR because of this, or what about this? Have people talked to you about reasons why they don't want to do CPR or don't want to learn CPR?
Absolutely. I think a big fear for people now is mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and not knowing someone and then putting your mouth on their mouth. But studies by the American Heart Association have proven that hands-only CPR, like we're going to talk more about soon, can keep somebody alive and get enough blood and oxygen going for the first couple of minutes before first responders or EMS get there.
Right.
So if they can just put aside, don't worry about mouth-to-mouth, and just do the compressions in the middle of the chest, you're actually doing a lot of good for that person. Another concern with women being the victim, and another study showed that women are less likely to receive CPR from a bystander than men. And I think that really comes down to the fear of hurting someone. And I'm here to say that my chest was sore, but nothing was broken. And the person who administered hands-only CPR was a very tall, very strong male who did not crack any ribs. He didn't hurt me. The great thing is, though, the Good Samaritan law in Illinois. If you have good intentions and somebody's down and you try to give CPR, and let's say you crack a rib, under the Good Samaritans Act, you wouldn't be held accountable.
Right, and I think that's one of the things that people are hesitant about. It's like, well, I know CPR, but I've never done it on a real person, or it's been a long time.
Sure.
I'm kind of nervous. I don't want to get sued. Well, you can't get sued.
Right.
There's laws to protect Good Samaritans. They're trying to help out other bystanders.
Absolutely.
And then you talked about the hands-only CPR. It's another hang-up that people have. It's like, I don't know this person. I mean, a loved one, sure, I'll do mouth-to-mouth on it, but I don't know this stranger. That's okay.
Yeah.
Because American Heart has said, the most important thing is the compressions, to recirculate that blood in the heart and get the blood going to the brain. It's the most important thing you can do. So if you don't feel confident in doing mouth-to-mouth, do the hands-only CPR. It's a terrific thing. We do have some other devices you might want to invest in that can help you alleviate that fear, that feeling. There's CPR shields, basically. They come in all sorts of different, this is what's called a pocket mask, and it just goes over the face like that, and you do rescue breathing, and it's a barrier between you and the patient, so you can't necessarily contract anything or get anything on you. They also come in little keychain thingies that you can carry in your
cool.
purse or on your keychain, and I have these in my car, so
Wow.
they're small, they're inexpensive, and they're right there for you if you ever need them, and that way you can continue with doing mouth-to-mouth resuscitations along with the compressions.
Absolutely.
So.
And I think another thing that came up is when we have to use the AED on somebody, and when somebody is in cardiac arrest, you only have 4 to 6 minutes to save their life before they have had significant brain damage. So what that really means is CPR needs to be started right away, and you need to get that AED on that person within 4 to 6 minutes. It's a very small window. But you have to have those pads directly on the skin. And I was, wearing a shirt very similar to today. And my colleagues did have to remove clothing. And I think that's something people are afraid of.
You're right.
If a woman is wearing a bra with an underwire, it could potentially cause a burn. But I will tell you that I did not receive any burns. They chose to leave that on, and it was still okay. So one of those fears of, addressing clothing and this, that, and the other, you can really work around it. And as a survivor, I didn't care how it happened. I didn't care if a rib was broken. I didn't care what happened, but I was alive.
Right. Modesty kind of goes out the window.
Exactly. Saving that person's life is worth more than an awkward situation, and it's not awkward when your life is being saved.
No, that's least your worries at that point.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah.
That's great. Well, certainly thank you, Heather,
Yes.
for coming out today. Anything else you'd like to impart on the video or to anyone else who are maybe thinking about CPR or just final messages or thoughts that you want to get across to everyone?
Sure. Cardiovascular disease is the leading killer nationwide, and so it's very likely that you're going to encounter somebody that has either a heart attack, cardiac arrest, some type of issue with their heart, and it's super easy to do the training. It takes very little time, especially if you're just learning hands-only CPR, and you could save a life. So 350,000 people a year, only about 10% survive. 7,000 of which are kids and teens. So it doesn't matter what age you are, what gender, your socioeconomic status, it doesn't matter. It can happen at any time to anyone. So I really hope that you choose to get CPR trained and be prepared.
Thanks, Heather. And we offer training at the Glenside Fire District every month. Go to our website, glensidefire.org, look on the CPR link. You can enroll online. You can call us at 630-668-5323. We teach, heart saver CPR, which is for adults, children, infants. We do first aid. We do healthcare provider for any nurses or healthcare professionals. We recertify them in CPR as well. So if you reach out to us, we'll enroll you in a class. And if you're not local, reach out to your hospital, your local fire department, and get in a class today, because you could really have an impact on someone's life.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.